Greetings everyone. In this video we're going to be looking at our final electoral system of this course, which is called AMS, or Additional Member System. But before I talk about it, let's just talk about the types that we've studied so far, and therefore you can start to learn where AMS fits in. The first one we learned about was first past the post, which is our only plurality system, where all you have to do is get more votes than everyone else, which for a two-party system works really well. But is Britain still a two-party system? That's a discussion for another time. Then we had our majoritarian system, the alternative vote and the supplementary vote. Both of these systems, broadly speaking, knock out candidates until one candidate gets above 50% of the vote. So you get 5 candidates and you get rid of 5th place, get rid of 4th place, get rid of 3rd place, and then one of these remaining candidates should have 50%, above 50% of the vote. There are differences between them, as you know, but broadly speaking, that's how it works. Then we get our proportional systems, which are designed to try and make the percentage of votes a party gets match the percentage of seats a party gets. Note here, with the majoritarian systems, we're talking about candidates, individuals. With the proportional systems, we're talking about parties. Now, both the party list system and STV, which we've studied this week, are proportional systems. STV, of course, does have that connection to individuals because you vote for individuals, but it is designed to try and get that percentage broadly in line with the vote, as you saw in the jungle. Which brings us to our final system, which is called AMS, the Additional Member System. And this is a new word for us. It's a hybrid system. Now, hopefully you know the word hybrid, but just in case you don't, a hybrid is where you combine two things together, two different types of things together. So, for example, a hybrid car is part electric and part petrol. A hybrid monster from fiction is a monster which is like half human and half horse. So a centaur, for example, is a hybrid monster. And there are probably other examples as well that I've forgotten about. So AMS, Additional Member System, is a hybrid system. So what does that mean? Well, it means it takes two of these types and tries to blend them together to create a new electoral system. So let's have a look at the ballot paper. Now, you should know that AMS is used in Scotland, in Wales, in the London Assembly, and others as well. It's quite a popular system because in some ways it's complex, but in other ways it's actually very simple, and I'll explain what I mean. You go in, when you go to vote, you go in and you're given 2 ballot papers, or one ballot paper with 2 halves, which however way they've decided to do it. But you, rather than having one vote or one set of votes, you have 2 separate votes for 2 different systems that have been merged together to create one. The first vote you have is for a party. You choose a party and you vote for it. The second vote you have is for an individual. You choose a person and you vote for it. And then what the election does, the electoral system does, is it creates 2 types of MPs. Some MPs which are voted for as individuals using a kind of a first past the post type system, and then other MPs that are voted for by using a party list, proportional based system. And the idea is that the proportional system evens out the results of the first past the post system. So imagine we just had first past the post. You know from our study now that parties like the Liberal Democrats, the Greens, UKIP and others get loads of votes, but they never get a plurality, so they get locked out. What AMS does is it uses the proportional party votes to balance out the results. So i.e. it would boost up the Lib Dems, or it would boost up UKIP to try and balance out the results of the constituency votes, while still keeping all of the advantages of having a single MP constituency representative, and perhaps allowing for the possibility of a kind of a single party government in Scotland. So AMS is a hybrid system, and just to confirm here, you see here in Scottish Parliament you have 2 votes. You vote once for a regional MSP, which stands for a member of the Scottish Parliament, and that uses proportional representation or the party list system. And you also get to vote for a constituency MSP. You vote once, and that uses first past the post. So let's just go through in a bit more detail and recap these ideas, and then we'll watch another exciting video about the jungle. AMS is used for the Scottish Parliament, Welsh Assembly, and Greater London Assembly. So again, it's used for almost every devolved parliament set up since the 1990s. This system creates two types of members: those who have been directly elected by their constituencies and represent them, and those who are elected through their parties. And I'll show you a diagram of that in a second to show you how it works. 2/3 of the seats are first past the post. So most of them are still elected like Westminster is, with a direct MP constituency link. Then they use the good old D'Hondt formula, which pushes down the parties who are successful in first past the post and pushes up the ones who are not. This helps the overall parliament to be more proportional to the total votes. And I think I have a scene with this. Let me just pause the video and get a screenshot for you. Okay, so the image behind me shows the 2016 Scottish Parliament elections, and this of course is out of date, because by the time you watch this video, the Scottish Parliament 2019 elections, 2021 elections have probably just taken place. So we should maybe look at this in class. But what this does is these are the constituency seats, and then these are the additional member seats. This is why it's called the additional member system, i.e. these are like the top-up seats using the proportional ones. And if I can zoom in here a little bit, oh dear, you can see how it works, because you can see that the SNP on the left dominates Scottish Parliament. They win almost everywhere using first past the post. So that's a SNP MP, that's an SNP, that's SNP, that's SNP, that's SNP. Where are all the Conservative and Labour votes going? They win a few, but most of these votes are wasted. Do you remember that phrase when we did first past the post? Most of the votes become wasted. So what happens over here is the additional member seats balance out these. So you'll note here, look, the SNP dominate up here. So the additional member system boosts the Conservatives and the Labour and the Green Party. Okay, it doesn't boost the party that's already there, and which is perhaps one of the tricky things about this system, is it doesn't say, right, the SNP got this percentage, so we'll give them this these ones as well. It says, right, the SNP already have this number of seats, so we're going to boost the parties that got votes but don't already have MSP. So the additional member, the party list system here is not a straightforward representation of the votes that the parties get. It's a representation of the vote once you remove the actual constituency results. And again, you can see here, if you then come down, you can see here SNP dominate, so AMS then boosts the Conservative and Labour vote. In reverse, come down to the bottom, the Conservatives dominate in southern Scotland, probably because it's on the border to England, so AMS then boots the SNP, which is this yellow area here. So it always balances out the vote. And if we come here, and I don't know if I can make this any bigger, but I'll try, it gives the actual numbers here. You can see here that the Scottish National Party gets 59 constituency seats. So they've dominated it. It's an amazing result. So therefore, they only end up getting topped up 4 seats. But the Conservatives only win 7 seats outright, getting a plurality. But because they actually score votes across the entire country or the entire nation of Scotland, AMS then boosts them with an extra 24 seats. Labour perhaps does even better out of it, and the Greens do even better at it. They get 3 and 0, but then AMS boosts them with 21 and 6. So you can see here that AMS is always boosting up the parties that get votes, but rarely win. So now what you're going to do is you're going to see on the next slide, you're going to see a video showing you the jungle using AMS and what differences that makes. And then, of course, you'll have some reading to do in your book about how these systems work. So just as one final thought, both AMS, which is a hybrid system, and STV, which is a proportional system, are more complex. You can see they're more complex. Here we've got these 2 types of MSP. In the other one, you had all this kind of vote rearrangement. But the idea is they are trying to maximize the benefits of an electoral system while minimizing the downsides. So what are the downsides of AMS? Are there any? Well, it is more complicated than first past the post, but the ballot paper is relatively straightforward. Vote once here, vote once here. So maybe it's not too complicated. But I tell you one thing it does do is it creates 2 types of representatives. There are those representatives who are constituency MSPs, and there are those representatives who are almost like the top-up MSPs. And broadly speaking, these constituency MSPs are seen as a bit more important, a bit more. It's almost like there's kind of two classes of MSP. Even technically, even though they get similar votes and they get similar powers, there is a kind of a hierarchy within Parliament. Maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe that's a kind of a minor quibble. But if you are looking to kind of criticize this system, you could go against the complexity, and you could also kind of point out here that in most parliaments, all MPs are equal. You know, one seat, one vote, everyone's kind of there with the same kind of powers of representation. But here is not the case. So for example, an MP which has been elected through the party list system might be more subjective to things like party whipping, and might be less independently minded because they know they haven't been voted in by their constituents. They've been voted in because they happen to belong to a particular party. So it might affect their ability to represent, or the other way, it might actually make them a better representative of a political viewpoint and ideology because they don't have to worry about this MP constituency link. So this is something that you can kind of toy with and play with within your thoughts and in your essays. So move on to the reading, move on to the next slide, learn some more, and I'll see you in class. Thanks, bye.